Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about how to price your photography. Now, this is a video that I have touched on a couple of times before on my channel, but I really feel like it's another one of those videos where I felt the need to redo it and to update it and to actually include a lot more information, because especially when it comes to pricing your commercial photography, I feel like it's very different to potentially pricing other genres of photography out there. So I really wanted to focus on this today and give you guys a few tips and handy points on how you might go about doing this. Now, before I start today, I just want to put out a disclaimer for this video because I need to make it known that it is not easy for me to come out and say a specific number for you guys to charge for your photography. Everyone is different, every photographer is different, and every client can be different. So it's very difficult for me to pinpoint what you guys should all be charging in terms of direct numbers. This video is going to be more of a structured video on how you would potentially set up a pricing structure for your clients and to find out a way to figure out how much your rates might actually be. We're going to talk more about the structure that you really need to implement in terms of pricing your commercial photography. So I just want to put that out there. This isn't going to be a video of you should be charging X per hour or X per day. It's very dependent on experience too, but we're going to get into that more very soon. And before we do go straight into the video, I just want to let you guys know that I have actually written a mini ebook, and this is going to be all about pricing your photography. So this video is kind of just like touching on a few more points that I really wanted to include here on my channel, but this ebook will have a very comprehensive list. There's going to be over 40 pages or so of content and templates that I will be offering along with that ebook. So if you guys are interested in purchasing it, it is $8.99 and it is available on my blog or through my website, and the links are in the description box below. I also chat a lot in that ebook about how to know when you're ready to start charging, because that is a question that I get asked all the time, is how do I know when to start charging for my work? So I've actually specifically got a whole chapter in this ebook about when you might feel ready to charge and what are those kind of things that you should look out for when you're really wanting to start charging for your work. I've really tried to make this ebook comprehensive in terms of pricing your photography because there is a lot more information that goes into it than just charging so much per hour. There really is a lot that you need to look at in terms of your expenses and all the rest of it, but we're actually going to get into that now. So if you are interested in the ebook, it is available over on my website or through my blog. Check out the link in the description box below. So as I was saying at the beginning of the video, every photographer is different and every client can be different. So now that we've made that clear and that's out of the way, I want to talk about a few points first off that you should be considering when you're starting to price your photography and you're starting to get those numbers together and figure out what you really want to charge. So first off, I would always recommend in this situation doing your research. Research is going to be particularly important in your locale or wherever you're living currently. You really need to look locally at what comparable photographers are charging for their work. And by comparable, I mean photographers in the same genre as you and potentially with a similar amount of experience. This might mean actually emailing them directly. Keep in mind that not all photographers will appreciate this, but some do, and some are happy to help you out with when it comes to pricing. I would also recommend if you've got a teacher or a mentor that you can even ask. They're really good people to try and ask about what sort of rates you should be looking at initially, because they may have had previous experience themselves or previous with other people or teaching other people that might have been in the same situation as you. So I'd recommend doing your research and starting off at that point. You may even be able to find this information out online. There might be some photographers in your area that you'll be able to check out their websites and see what pricing structures they have online. But you absolutely must do your research in your location, because, and the reason I say you should be doing your research in your own location and where you're living is because people who are working as commercial photographers in New York City, for example, are going to be charging a very different amount to clients compared to photographers who might be living in a very small town, well outside of the cities. And the reason for this is you tend to have larger overheads when you're working in places or living in places like New York City, for example, or main big cities. Your rent is going to be higher, your expenses will be higher overall, and you do generally need to take that into account when you're charging. So you need to sort of see what comparable photographers are charging in your area. Now, please keep in mind that you don't want to be undercutting anyone in your area. Even if you are a beginner, especially actually if you're a beginner. Because if you start to do this, this actually can make you more of an easy target for potential clients who don't really want to pay for your work and really don't understand the efforts that go into photography and photo shoots. And it actually makes it worse for the entire community. It can make photographers in the area far too competitive with their rates, and everyone's salary essentially gets lowered a little bit when people keep doing this to each other, unfortunately. So it is something to look out for, and make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. If you're charging rates that are very, very low, you're going to potentially attract those customers that don't want to pay a lot for a photo shoot, and you might end up doing a lot more work in the end. You deserve to earn enough when it comes to making your business sustainable. So commercial photography rates can be a little bit difficult to figure out, I will admit, because not every job is the same, and you don't necessarily always have to offer a package per se, whereas a lot of other genres of photographers would do that, like family photographers and wedding photographers. With commercial photography, you're breaking things down a lot more and actually looking at how much time you are putting into a shoot. The requirements for every shoot tend to be different as well, so this is why it's hard to form that structure in the first place for what you want to charge. And this is why you really need to consider the next few things that I'm going to be talking about. So the first thing that you really need to consider is your expenses for the year. How much is it costing you to run a business? How much is it costing you to run your business? And this is the thing that will be by far the most important thing in terms of working out how to cover those expenses enough so you are making a profit and you are making a living. In my ebook, I've included a list of things that you should be looking out for with expenses if you're new to setting up your photography business, because I can understand it's a little bit difficult at first if you've never actually run a business before and you're only getting into it now and you're looking at pricing your photography for the first time. This is where it can be a little bit difficult. So in my ebook, I've included a list of expenses that you really should be looking out for. I've also included an expenses sheet template with that ebook too, so you can easily work out what your expenses may be throughout the year. You then need to figure out what you'd ideally like to earn in a year. Now, this is where it becomes a little bit difficult too, because you really have to take a step back and be very realistic with this number. You need to take into consideration your own experience with photography, if you've ever had clients before, if you are new, or if there's a lot of clients who are currently asking for your rates, who are inquiring a lot with you. You really need to determine how much realistically would you like to earn, whether it be your first, second, third, fourth year, whatever year you're in terms of experience of photography. You just need to determine how much you would like to earn in a year and be very realistic. You don't want to set your targets too high and you don't want to set them too low either. If you're a beginner, you really do still need to make a living. So you need to look at that and you need to be realistic with how many photo shoots you could potentially do in a year to make that money. How are you actually going to make that money? That's the thing that I think a lot of people don't tend to take into consideration, is that they'll do the numbers and they'll figure out a number that they want to earn, but then they're not looking at how they're going to achieve that. So if I had any advice for that, it is breaking it down. And if you've got more than one skill when it comes to your freelancing business or your commercial photography business, maybe add a few extra things on the list, whether it be retouching, whether it be assisting. There are actually a long list of things out there that you can do to earn your income and to show where that money is going to come from in your realistic figure for your year of earnings. You then ideally need to determine a set of base rates for your commercial photography business. In my experience, I've tried a lot of different things when it's come to rates over the years, but I've actually found that you really do need more than one avenue with setting your rates. I don't really believe that you should just have a half day rate and a full day rate, or you should just have hourly rates. I think you need to adapt to your clients, and I think you need to have a range of rates that you can offer people. This is why I always actually recommend people to figure out a half day rate, a full day rate, an hourly rate, and then I would also take into consideration retouching time, whether that be a retouching per hour rate or a retouching per image rate. And then you can create a package with those rates for any specific client if you prefer. I personally prefer to organize a half day and a full day rate. So my full day rate is the one that I push the most. Half day, a lot of the time I find it's a struggle to get a lot of the time what a client wants done in 4 hours or so. So I do tend to push for that full day rate most of the time. I usually have my half day rate set to more than half of what the full day rate would be. And I do this to encourage clients to pick the full day rate, because obviously that works better for me, but it also works better for them in terms of timing. But then the half day rate is still there and I'm still getting the money for my time as well. So that's generally how I like to set up my half day and full day rates. And when I'm talking about half day, full day, and hourly, I'm talking about them as my photography day rate. So this is what I offer to the client up front, and then I also offer them a separate rate for my retouching. Now, as I said before, I tend to prefer to do this as an hourly rate because there's been times in the past where a client has told me that I need to retouch 20 images, and I've charged them an amount up front for retouching included in the price of the photography. And then I've gotten halfway through those 20 images, say, and I've realized that I haven't charged enough money for my time. So it can be difficult to work out sometimes how much time you're going to spend on a certain batch of images when you're editing. And this is why I like to do it in the hourly sense, because I can send a timesheet through to the client and show them where and when I've actually been working. And it gives them a more accurate time frame. And then I'm getting paid accurately for my time too. So this is why I prefer to do it this way. Some clients out there will not prefer this method, and they would prefer an upfront costing with images edited and with the photography day rate. So what I do in that instance is I work out an amount per image that I will charge the client, and then I will try and package everything together. There's some clients out there that prefer to have that way of pricing put to them, and they just don't prefer to have sort of several different methods. Some clients, like I said, will be easier, some not so much in that sense. But once you've created your base rates in all of these sections, it's important to tailor them to your client's needs. So like I said, if they prefer to have a package deal, if they prefer to have separate methods, like one method for the day rate, one method for retouching, if they're okay with that, then offer that to them. But this is how I like to tailor it to them, is by having base rates to start from, and then depending on what they require, depending on what they need, if I have to source anything else, then I can add on top of that. And depending on the usage too, then that's another thing that I'll have to consider too in my pricing. And one thing that I think is really important to remember with pricing for your commercial clients is actually qualifying your client and figuring out what they really do require. So when determining your quote, you really need to figure out how long you might be shooting for, how many edited images will be required, if you need to source anything or anyone for the shoot, and of course, usage terms. And the usage terms that I'm talking about are more so for marketing and advertising after you've done the photo shoot, after the photos have been sent through to the client. This is where they're going to be using these images, whether it be for website, online socials, it could be in-store marketing on posters, or it could be editorial use as well. So a lot of the time they're split into two categories of print and digital, and sometimes they'll include both. I actually have written another chapter on this in my mini ebook that includes usage and negotiation, so it is all in there if you guys are interested in that. And that actually does bring me to negotiation, and negotiating your rates is perfectly acceptable. You can actually use this as a tool to gain jobs that you might really feel is beneficial for your portfolio versus other potential jobs that may not be as beneficial that you don't want to negotiate on. For example, if I can sense that there might be ongoing work with a particular client too, I tend to be more open to negotiation with my rates, because if I know that there's some sort of consistency that might come from that afterwards, then that's going to be working better for me in the future too. In this instance, as long as it's very beneficial for me too as a photographer, I would usually try and make my rates more competitive to hopefully gain a repeat client. The one thing that I do have to stress about this video is though, realize that your time is valuable and that you are getting the most out of your business. Remember that you need to make a living and that you deserve to. You don't need to feel guilty for charging for your time. Also remember that the rates that you're likely to charge now may not be the ones that you'll be charging in a few years' time. Actually, in fact, they'll likely not be. And this is where I just want to make a point about inflation and raising your rates as you go along. Inflation is an important factor to consider, as well as your expenses rising as you go along in your career. Your skills will also become more desired and more refined, so it's definitely an acceptable thing to raise your rates in future. I personally find a good time to do this is actually at the beginning of every financial year, and I would usually increase my rates by a small percentage. Once again, in my ebook, I've got a little bit more information on this and raising your rates, because I know a lot of people out there have a bit of difficulty when it comes to knowing when a good time is to do that and how to do it with specific clients that they already have. And it definitely comes down to just having that conversation too with your ongoing clients and your repeat clients. You just need to make them aware and enlighten them on the fact that you are a busy person, you do have other work commitments, and you would love to keep working for them. But obviously with inflation, with expenses rising, you do need to increase those rates. And that's really all that it does come down to. So guys, I really hope this video had a bit of information for you on pricing your commercial photography, and whether that's fashion, beauty, or other commercial work, I really hope it was helpful. Like I said, it wasn't the type of video where I was going to sit down and tell you guys numbers of per hour, what you should be charging, because everyone is going to be so completely different and it is so dependent on your experience as a photographer. I have thought about doing a live stream on this topic as well on Instagram, so if you guys feel like that would be a good thing to do, let me know in the comments section below and I can talk about it a little bit more with you guys. And if you guys do have any other questions about this topic, feel free to leave them in the comments section below and I'll hopefully get around to answering them and helping you guys out if you're stuck with anything in particular. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do, as I'll be posting so much more content in coming months. And thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you next time.